Hare Krishna. So,
Can we put the light on?
there is no lights, unfortunately.
I know.
Come sit closer.
Yes, come closer.
What's
So-
your name, Mother? Sandy. Glad you're joining us.
Yes. You can also come on this side. Maybe it will be. You'll hear better. Yes, because it's windy and many noises. So it is interesting how different scriptures all over the world are dealing with the question of creation. So the Bible, as we know, starts with the description of creation, and also Srimad Bhagavatam, which is
We'll just concentrate.
yes, which is the most profound book of Vedic literature. It is a atra sargo visargascha sthanam poshamuta manvantare shanutkata nirodho muktirashaya. It starts with creation. Sarga means creation, and visarga means the secondary creation. So every scripture describes this creation, and although there are differences in descriptions, there is one common theme of all different scriptures, and that is, what do you think? God created this world. If you see the Bible, God created the world. If you take the Bhagavatam, God created the world. So everything comes from the Lord. But usually when we post such a statement, what do people think? How do people react? What do they ask usually? This is a question for you.
Who's?
Sorry?
They ask about who's God.
Who is God? This is one question, yes. What else do they ask usually? At least in Europe it's like this.
How?
Did you see God do it?
Did you see God do it? Yes, we also can be this one. This question. Why are we here? I have another question. Of course, these questions are all relevant and they are frequently being asked. But there is also one question. Who created God? Have you heard about this before?
Yes.
If God created this world, if God created the universe, who created God?
God can, nobody can create God. God is God.
Yes. But actually this question is quite intelligent if we consider it deeply. And the answer is also very important for our spiritual advancement, because we are speaking about spiritual advancement inspired by the creation. So we should understand from the scriptures that everything is eternal. Although it is created, is eternal. So material nature, for material nature, it is characteristic that it always changes. But spirit is always the same. So although material nature gets created again and again and again, it's eternal by its nature. And we can experience this also ourselves. If you, example, take a picture when you were born in one hand and the mirror in the other hand, we can see that matter changed a lot. We are completely different from the time we were born. The scientists say that every 7 years everyone completely changes all his cells. So we have changed ourselves many times. We have changed our body. We have reincarnated many times. And even the state recognizes reincarnation unknowingly. They say that you have to make your passport new every 10 years or 5. So they recognize that you are the same person, but your body have changed, isn't it? So they recognize reincarnation, actually. So we should know that we are eternal personalities, and because we can see, and not just that our gross body has changed, but also our subtle body. We completely, this is mind and intelligence. So from when we were born, our conceptions changed, our desires changed, our worldview changed, everything changed. So we can understand from this that we are eternal living entities, that spirit is everlasting, doesn't change, but matter is always changing. So actually the spirit, when in contact with matter, creates. Even we are creators. Every spirit soul, every fraction of a spirit creates. So if you are in contact with nature, you create. You have a pen here, so it means that you use it for some writing. So you create some writing, and you created this festival leaflets to inform people about the seminars and so on. So we can see we always create. Whenever we are in contact with matter, we create. We cook, we're wearing clothes. Something we create all the time. We are creative. The spirit is creative energy. Yes. And so if we tiny spirit sparks always create, what to speak of supreme spiritual energy, who is absolute, of course creates even more. Creates universes, but we can create, I don't know, a pen or a dinner. So yes, but the problem of tiny spiritual spark as we are is to get involved in nature, to identify with nature. Then we think that we are something that we are not. And this is the problem. And because we are eternal by our nature, because spirit is eternal, never changes, then because we are attached to eternality, we don't want that body is changing. And we don't want that our situation is changing. We don't want that our children are grown up and go away from home, for example. Yes, we create our world around ourselves and we want it to be eternal. knowingly or unknowingly, we want this world to be eternal and to bring us, of course, happiness, because we are all beings of pleasure, of happiness. We are seeking happiness all the time, knowingly or unknowingly, consciously or subconsciously. It is explained that we are ananda mayobhya sat. We are always pleasure-seeking living entities. So we cannot be satisfied without pleasure. We cannot be satisfied without happiness. So everything we do, everything we think, everything we say, it's seeking pleasure, seeking happiness. Even if we do something that we don't want, we do it just to avoid greater misery. For example, if someone has a job that he doesn't like, he's doing it because he's afraid of, if he loses his job, that he'll be more miserable than he's now. Yes. So we should understand that all these descriptions of creation are meant for understanding of the Supreme Spirit. And we are also parts of the Supreme Spirit. So if we understand the Supreme Spirit and we understand ourselves, then we can understand what is the real value of our life. Because we are a spirit by nature, the body is just the whirlwind of matter. On one side, we bring different elements in this whirlwind, and on the other side, we dispose different elements from this whirlwind. And this is an ongoing process till this whirlwind exists. Yes. But we are completely on different level. We are spirit. We are spirit, and so we can be satisfied only on spiritual level, in spiritual realm. We cannot be satisfied in material level. No way, because it doesn't touches us. So it would be similarly to feeding our reflection in the mirror. We can never be satisfied and nourished by feeding our reflection in the mirror. So, by understanding how this nature is working, how this creation is coming and going, like our body is also one of the creations, and it's also coming and going. Everything is coming and going. How many generations have changed from time immemorial? No one can count. And for example, I believe that you all have heard about Lord Shiva, and he's wearing skulls for his garland. Do you know what are these skulls? He's married to Durga, which is the embodiment of material nature. And every time the material nature is destroyed, that means that his wife dies. And he's so attached to his wife that he puts her skull on his garland. So these are the garlands of his wives. So we should know that everything will pass in this world, and if we are attached to this world, then we suffer. Krishna explains in 5th chapter of Bhagavad-gita, Ye hi sansparsha bhoga dukkha yona evati adyantavanta kanta nateshu ramati buddha. That those who are at least little intelligent, they don't seek pleasure in this world, because because everything in this world has its beginning and its end. And no one wants that what makes him happy that will end. No one wants this. Everyone wants to be eternally happy. And if more we are attached to something that brings us happiness here, more we suffer when this is taken away from us. And it will be definitely taken away. By default. We cannot go around it. It will be taken. And more we are attached, because it brings us some pleasure, some satisfaction, more we suffer. But we don't want to suffer. So pleasure and suffering in this world is just different faces of the same coin. One cannot go without the other. And it is interesting that Prahlad Maharaj explains in 7th canto Srimad Bhagavatam. He says, Sukaya dukkha mokshaya sankalpa iha karmina sadapnoti haya dukkham anihaya sukavrita. That means Sukaya means happiness, for happiness, and dukkha mokshaya, to be free from miseries. Sankalpa iha karmina. So those who are materialists, they have firm vows. They take firm vows and they are completely determined to achieve happiness and to be rid of miseries, to be free from miseries. But he says, Sadapnoti haya dukkham. But what they only get is always misery. It's interesting. They are striving very hard with complete determination to achieve happiness and to be rid of miseries, to be free from miseries. But whatever they achieve is just misery. Strange, isn't it? But anihaya sukavrita, those who are connected with the Lord, are always happy, are covered with happiness. They don't strive for material happiness.
Temporary
Yes.
joy, happiness.
Yes. and bright everything for the moment, and even more dark after after the next. Yes, this is like material world. Brings some joy for a moment, and then again misery. So my message is that we should understand the Lord. And it's said in Srimad Bhagavatam also, Jivasya tattva jigyasa. We live just for inquiring about the absolute truth. Yes. And in the one of the four basic verses, Chaturvyuha of Srimad Bhagavatam, it is said, Etavat eva jigyasan tattva jigyasunatmana anvaya vyatirekabhyam yat syat sarvatra sarvada. That we should inquire about absolute truth directly and indirectly, and in all times and all circumstances. So if we are intelligent, we should take it seriously, to establish this relationship with the Lord. Otherwise, the life will just pour out of our hands without any control, and we'll be miserable again. Yes. And this is not the purpose of life. The purpose of life is to be happy. It's to be always blissful. And this is not just some promise that at the end of life that we can become blissful. No. Lord Krishna says in the 8th chapter of Bhagavad-gita, Yam vapi smaram bhavan tyajante ante kalivaram tantam aveti kanta sadatat bhavat bhavita. That whatever state of consciousness one has at the time of death, that state he will definitely achieve. So only if we are in the spiritual consciousness now, we can continue in spiritual consciousness. If we have material consciousness, material attachments now, we will just continue with material attachments. So the process of bhakti-yoga is the scientific process to connect ourselves with the Supreme and to be always happy. Hare Krishna. Do you have any questions or comments?
Bhagavata-dharma Prabhu ki jai.
No.
Thank you. This is such a nice presentation for everybody, you know. I'm a little disappointed with this.
No, just keep it like, is it okay? Yes. Do you have any questions? You?
I like.
Oh, wait.
Come sit closer.
Yes.
Just watch the stand.
You want? Sorry, I interrupted you.
Sorry, let Prabhu ask. Then
No, it's okay. You can go. I don't have any questions.
I was going to ask you about your personal experience of transcribing, or at least not transcribing, but translating Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, when you went through that. What, your realization?
Yes, realization. I was also planning to speak about this, but because we have such a small
Yes.
audience and it's getting darker and darker.
You just touched on creation a bit.
It's really important to understand from these descriptions that nothing works without God's glance. Everything is created already, but nothing works. It is explained like this in Bhagavatam. It works only when the Lord glances over it and enlivens it with His energy, with the time factor. So we should understand also in our life that if we want that everything will run properly, it should have Lord's blessing. It should have Lord's glancing over it. Yes. And then everything will be perfect. And this is, I think, the most important message of this creation message, creation description in Bhagavatam. Because everything comes from the Lord, spiritual worlds and material worlds, also explaining in Bhagavad-gita, the same concept, aham sarvasya prabhavo mattah sarvam pravartati. Everything comes from me. And as we explained before, that those who knows this, they worship me with all their hearts and great love. Yes. Aham sarvasya prabhavo mattah sarvam pravartati iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samamvita. Yes. So if we understand this, how Lord is everything, and He explains also that He's the enjoyer of everything, of every sacrifice and bhoktaram yagya tapasam, and of every endeavor, then we also can be happy. And if we consider sacrifice is everything, we always do some sacrifice in our life, always, 24 hours a day. For example, that you are here, you sacrifice your time. You can be doing something else. You can go to the gift shop or prasadam tent.
Which we'll do just now.
Yes. So you sacrifice your time to be here, and you sacrifice so much to erect these tents and and organize this big festival. And at the temple site, I heard in the middle of the night people are preparing something. So a lot of work is done for this festival here, and this is, of course, everything is sacrifice. And if you understand that the Lord is the enjoyer of all sacrifices, then we can do happily everything for the Lord's pleasure, and then we'll also be happy, and we experience pleasure, natural, because one can be happy if he makes happy the one he loves. There is one story in Slovenian literature, autobiographic story, how one boy heard conversation between his father and mother, and his mother was explaining to his father that she would like to ornament the Mary's altar in the church, and but with some small white flowers, special flowers, which are called in Slovenian the little tears. But these little tears, they don't grow anywhere now except in some deep, dark valley called hell. And this boy was terrified of this hell. During the summertime, father many times sent him to herd sheep and goats in this valley, because some brook was going in the bottom of this, and it was humid, and the grass was more green and so on. So father wanted that his herd of sheep and goats would be herd there. So but he many times escaped from this hell because he was too afraid of it, and he was punished. And when he heard this conversation between his father and mother, the next day, before sunrise, he was into this hell. It was still complete darkness, and he was really terrified because this brooklet was flowing through the hell, through this valley, and everything echoed, and it was really frightening. And he expected that just now some devils will come and take him away. and he went to these flowers, to these little tears, and started grabbing him like anything. And he had all a bunch of these flowers and ran out as fast as he could. And when he was returning to his home, his mother just stepped on the threshold of a house, and the first rays of the rising sun were illuminating his mother. And he came to his mother with this bunch of little tears, and mother understood how great sacrifice he performed, because she knew that he was terrified of this hell. And this occasion stick to his memory as the happiest day in his life, because if we make happy someone we really love, that will bring us the highest form of happiness. Not to possess things, but to have deep loving relationship. But of course, if we have deep loving relationship in this world, which are all temporary, then we'll definitely suffer when we lose these relationships. So, therefore, the Shastras direct us to develop this unconditional love, a Hetuki Bhakti, to a Dokshaja, to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then we can be Suprasidati. Prasidati means happy, and Suprasidati means perfectly happy. Yes, completely happy. And this is the goal of our life, of everyone's life. Hare Krishna.
Jai. Thank you so much, Prabhu.